three tips that I would have for anybody that's listening to this is the Chicago Marathon is fantastic. The crowds are there. Stay engaged with what's going on around you. Enjoy it. Obviously, if you're running for time, you're making your time and watching your pace a job, but give your mind other little jobs too, and those jobs can be fun, like seeing what's going on at this mile, or like looking at that person that's doing something funny, or because you're always going to have that job of checking your time. If you just become obsessed with that, you're going to be in, it becomes too much. So in Chicago, it's such a great atmosphere, and you really want to not stop and smell the roses, but run and smell the roses there. Another thing is, once you're into the flow of the race, pick somebody in the crowd, whether they're next to you or close to you. And I like to run with them, even if they know it or not. Sometimes I'll strike up a conversation, but like there'll be somebody of all these thousands of people that's doing it exactly the same as you in your little world there. So you know what? Collectively use each other to that advantage. I've met so many people for like 10 minutes that we've talked for a second, and like one of us either goes forward or backward, but like it's a great mutualistic boost. And once again, it's another way to keep your mind off, your mind trying to talk you into like that you can't do something. And then another thing is just, especially in the last 10 miles, is just, I would say to stay consistent. You know what I mean? Don't try and be a hero. There's going to be people passing you. You're going to be passing other people. It's like, do what you can do. Stay consistent. Don't blow it being a hero. You know what I mean? Like, you think you're like, I'm going to keep going with that guy and I'm going to shave this amount of time. But like that could blow up in your face the last like 2 or 3 miles. Just stay consistent. That is going to be the best thing that you can do towards the end. Now, if you want to gun it and put it all out the last mile, great. And maybe you want to do it for the last 2 miles. I don't know. It depends, I think, on your experience level. But, just don't do anything silly the last 10 miles. That's the mantra I keep telling myself. I don't really want to say it in the Zoom, but it involves a bad word. But don't mess it up is basically what I'm saying to myself. One other race tip that really helped me, I just found out a couple of years ago, was that there is, I think it's a blue line painted down. It's usually down the middle of the street, but then we'll get closer to the corners. That's the route you should take. It's the shortest route during the marathon. So if you're looking for another thing to keep you mentally focused, look for that line and stay with it. And when you see a corner coming up in like 200 yards, start navigating your way over there. You want those little couple of feet here and there will help you at the end if you're really going for a time, and they also keep you mentally in the game. Once again, not letting negative thoughts get into your head.
All right, last few pieces of advice. First one is, at the start line, have in the back of your mind maybe approximately the time that you want to run, right? And if that's a 3-hour marathon or a 250 or a 310 or 315 or whatever it is, and find the pace group, the guy with a sign that has that pace number on it in the corral that you're in, right? You don't have to run with that pace group, but it's good to not be in a radically different group than you're going to try to run. Everyone's going to charge out of that gate too. And you want to not go too fast. The first mile is wide open. It's a little bit downhill, right? You got the enthusiasm, but you want to pace yourself even there so that you're not, regretting it 20 miles later, right? Another piece of advice would simply be this: as you're going, find little ways to keep your mind kind of in the game. And maybe that's like, just for myself, I grab a cup of water at every single water stop. And I take at least just a little sip, right? And it's a little like thing in a little routine that I do throughout the race that kind of reminds me, okay, I'm another mile or two down the road, taking just a little sip of water. It kind of pulls my mind out of whatever, maybe slump that I was getting myself into. And I try to take a little check-in at that point. How am I feeling? How am I doing? Who am I praying for, right? And it's just like a real reset moment to sort of like, okay, I'm still in this. Let's do this, right? And keep your enthusiasm up as the race goes on. It's hard. The temptation is there to think you're not going to make it, right? And you've got 10 miles to go or 15 miles to go. Instead of like considering how many more miles you've got. Think about how many miles you've already finished, and the fact that you're ready to do this, and you're there. You get to run Chicago, right? Keep that in the back of your mind. You get to run the Chicago Marathon. That's an amazing experience, and an amazing opportunity.
So 3 last pieces of advice. I think the first thing would be listen to your body. Even before the marathon, I mean, the marathon training is a lot harder than the actual marathon, because it's longer. You're training for 5 months at a time. And so I remember in the month of July, I only ran twice, 2 days in the whole month of July, but I needed to take that time to rest. And so if during your training, you feel like you need a rest, listen to your body and rest. And then when you're running the marathon, even when you're running the marathon, know that at the beginning, you're going to feel really, really good, because that's the adrenaline. And so it could be a little bit deceiving that you're thinking, oh, I'm running, 5:30 pace or 6 flat or 6:30 pace, and I feel really, really good. So I think I can hold this for the next 20 miles. It's like, no, like dial it back a bit, because a lot of it's the adrenaline. And just, if it feels really easy, great. But stay consistent to the time that you set to run your marathon, because you're going to need that extra energy at the end of your race, the end of your marathon. So listen to your body. And if it needs to be hydrated, get that next hydration spot and get Gatorade, get yourself some good packs, and prepare for those last 10 miles of the marathon. Second piece of advice is run your race. You're going to see people passing you. It's going to be the temptation to run with them, but just let them pass. Let them pass. They're doing their own thing. Or if you're passing people, great, that's awesome. But just let them pass. Go around people if you need to, but focus on running your race. You have your goal. You want to go sub 3 or whatever. Focus on that. And then the third piece of advice would be use people. So I was not able to, at the start of my race, be with the pace group. So I had to just navigate and weave through the different crowds of runners as I was running my race. But there was moments where I would just run with the pack, and they had the same pace that I was going to. But then I felt like I needed to advance a little bit more, and so I used the next pack ahead of me to run to them. So that kind of just helped me just break up the marathon, and also motivate me to run a little bit faster, do little surges and throughout the marathon. And so those would be the last 3 pieces of advice.